Hi and welcome back to the channel. Started this SF Masterworks read along series where we're going to do all of the SF Masterworks books in order, hosted by my good friend Varsha at Reading by the Raining Mountain, with a whole host of other wonderful booktubers in it. You'll see the discussions I'll be posting every month as we do them. We're going to do them in order, and this one started with The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. And rather than just do reviews of these books, what I thought I would do is, for anybody that's interested in getting into classic sci-fi, what I'm going to suggest is, through reading these books, what are the things that you could be asking yourself and talking about? Because as with most of these books aren't massive. And a lot of classic sci-fi, some of them are very big, as you'll know, but some of them aren't. And I'm going to do a series of what I would call reading notes. 3 or 4 things, in this case 4 things, to think about when you're reading the book, and to kind of prompt what you're doing. And once you've done that and read the book for yourself, then we have full massive spoiler talks where we talk about what I think a lot of these themes are, and then other themes that other people have put together. So rather than doing reviews about the books, kind of give you some prompting as to kind of reasons why people mightn't read, or gateway into classic science fiction. Although too long, didn't watch, etc. I think The Forever War is a stunning book. First question I'm going to answer is this, though. Is the science important? So this is a classic sci-fi, and a lot of classic sci-fi has some very big scientific ideas. In fact, scientific ideas that even people who study science don't fully comprehend what it is, but also that we as a human race are only really trying to figure out what that really means. Forever War has a lot of them within it. Primarily, it touches on the theory of relativity and special relativity. The fact that space travel will determine that the time that we experience will not correlate with the time experienced by other people. I.e., if I leave Earth and travel by some form of scientific phenomenon to a far off distant travel and return back, hundreds of years may have passed on Earth and 2 years may have passed for me personally. That idea. Is the science important to understand? I would argue for Forever War, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think even as somebody that doesn't study science or doesn't want to understand science and just wants to read a story, you can find in Forever War that you can just breeze past it. There's enough detail in there for those that really like it and that really do want to get into the details of it to go, that does make sense, or I understand that a little bit better. Or even at the very least, if you're interested in those things and understanding more about them, a tipping point for understanding this is the impact of what that would have, and you can go and research as to kind of the science. There's thousands of videos on the internet about relativity. Some of the other big things in terms of scientific progress are very much more explainable and kind of, seen a lot in Avengers movies, that kind of stuff. So shouldn't lose you too much. So the science, I would say, is not a barrier to this book at all. When reading this book, think to yourself about the importance of characterization within storytelling. Because our main character, William Mandela, is a bit of a non-entity. He's a grey character. In fact, in some ways, he's a bit like a video game character insofar as he's not somebody with amazing powers or such heightened intelligence over everybody else. He isn't somebody that stands out from everybody else. He just happens to be the conduit through which we get told this story. And in doing that, is that important to him? Do we need... Our character does have development, does have growth, but it's more about the stages of his life and the relationships that he has and the things that he observes. And while this links to my next point, how important is it that your main character becomes somebody that you root for and follow and think, I want them to come out at the far end as the victor or somebody that saves the world or otherwise? You may or may not get that in this book, but we have a character here who lives and experiences the world but doesn't necessarily directly affect it in any huge way apart from the relationships of their life. And I think as a construct, that's a really interesting idea to kind of think about as you're reading the book. Third thing we're going to talk about is think about how, as time progresses and the war takes its effect in the political system and the things that happen, what effect those changes would have on the things that we hold dear in life. So if we think about modern society and the things that are important to many people, and kind of the way that we live life, a lot of us grow up, go to school, learn at a certain age, leave to go off either in the employment or otherwise, but we move into what would be maybe the relationship part of our phase of our life, where relationships and securing a partner, growing a family, etc., are all really important. And then moving on into later life, where your kids grow up and you're passing on that information on what you do and how you live and you enjoy life. If we put them in the context of the events and the things that happen within this story, there is a good bit of time put on the changes of Earth and Earth society in terms of the differences from that. And for me, one of the real great joys was trying to think, well, if this happened, or this is what's happening on Earth now, how does that contrast from what we're experiencing in the book and now, backwards and forwards? Because ultimately the book is an allegory to somebody returning from the Vietnam War and trying to reintegrate them into society, and actually what effect that has on them, how difficult that is, how they make adjustments, what would make it easier, etc. And what that means to our central character and to you as the reader. Thinking about all those things and try and make some observations, and that I think will enrich your reading experience quite a lot. And that leads into my last point, which is often, what are the things that are said or not said that are important within our world? We have attitudes to sexuality. We have attitudes to female and male relationships, and in terms of the gender balance within society, we have questions asked about education and about communication and how we relate all those things within modern society. And then ultimately, what is it to be human? At the end of the day, if we're fighting a war, what is the point of that war? What are we looking to get at the end of it? What are we looking to seek to protect? What are we seeking to gain? These are all big questions. I don't know if this series or this video is any help to anybody reading The Forever War, but if you've read The Forever War and you want to discuss more about these, the Spoiler Talk video will be up in the channel, or you can let me know in the comments how you feel that The Forever War relates to an awful lot of that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you again soon on the channel. Take care.